So in this game we saw Lampard set up his Chelsea side in a fairly passive 4-4-2 defensive shape, allowing Lindelof and Varane to carry the ball out of the box as Ten Hag's side utilised a wide 2-3-2-3 shape in the build-up phase. And we saw Chelsea go with a zonal approach, as rather than one of Havertz or Gallagher sitting on Casemiro from behind, they would instead press as a front two, using their positioning to cut off the passing lane from one of the centre-backs into Casemiro. However, even though United do struggle in the build-up sometimes to work the ball out of their own box when being pressed aggressively by the opposition, once the ball is worked out of the box in possession of the two centre-backs rather than De Gea, United are much better at progressing the ball up the pitch, and Chelsea saw this as when United would circulate the ball from one side to the other. If Havertz or Gallagher weren't quick enough to shuttle across, either Lindelof or Varane, whoever side it was on, had the ability to carry the ball forward into the space wide of Chelsea's front two, and often because Mudryk on the left and Madueke on the right were holding fairly wide positions out of possession, sticking to the fullbacks but not sticking close to the central midfielder on their inside, there was a massive amount of space vacant, not just for one of the United centre-backs to drive into, but also for Fernandes and Eriksen to sit high in behind the Chelsea double pivot and open up a passing lane from in front of the Chelsea front two to in behind their midfield. And so in this game we saw United actually be rather comfortable in playing through Chelsea's defensive shape in the middle third. Here we see as the ball goes out to Wan-Bissaka on the right, Chelsea's pressing is far too passive, half a second off United, who are fantastic at transitioning the attack quickly via a series of shorter but more direct passes, with Wan-Bissaka starting this forward moving sequence with a pass into Fernandes, wide of Mudryk on the right flank, pulling away from Enzo Fernandes, who can't follow Bruno this far wide, and forcing Chalobah to push up from the centre-back position, being the closest player to the Portuguese. But Fernandes has that slight bit of extra space which allows him to execute an incredible first-time left-footed swivel pass around the corner into Anthony Martial, who drops off from the forward line, and first time is able to guide the pass into the path of the on-running Wan-Bissaka, who has managed to run off Mudryk after his initial pass which started this sequence, making a third man run to burst into the space vacated by Chalobah, pushing out of the back line onto Fernandes, and now we can see United in possession, approaching Chelsea's defensive third. And like he did in the attack from the defensive to the middle third, Fernandes is then involved in progressing the ball into the final third with another excellent medium range pass into Martial, who this time can't link the play first time as he did earlier on in the move. And I thought Bruno Fernandes was incredibly impressive throughout this game, being United's main playmaker and source of direct ball progression from those deeper positions. His ability to find Martial via his long passes were exceptional, with him completing 6 of the 8 long balls that he attempted in that game. He also created one big chance in the game, receiving an expected assist rate of 0.24 and an XG of 0.96, but a majority of this is obviously coming from the penalty that he did score. But also by looking at his heat map, we can see that Fernandes is featuring fairly prominently in deeper areas now, lending credence to the theory that Fernandes is beginning to evolve as a player, going from an advanced playmaker who primarily would hold a higher position and look to create or score in the final third, to now a much freer role, dropping deeper to get on the ball, particularly from the left side, and being able to utilise his long passing ability to move the ball forward at speed in a more direct fashion to how we see either Arsenal or Manchester City look to progress their attacks. But we did also see Christian Eriksen perform these sort of long-range quarterback-like passes in order to release a quick attack. Here Casemiro tries to start a counter after Chelsea's attack breaks down on the edge of United's box with a dink over the Chelsea midfield line into Bruno Fernandes, but Trevor Chalobah does well to anticipate the pass and meet the bouncing ball with his head. But his header goes straight into the path of Christian Eriksen, who has the vision and awareness to see that with Chalobah out of the back line and Lewis Hall high on the left, there is a massive amount of space on the left side of Chelsea's defence, United's right, and Antony has run off Lewis Hall, anticipating United may regain possession in the middle third, and with an excellently executed side volley, Eriksen first time is able to ping the bouncing ball with some backspin, releasing Antony down the right of Fofana, and now United effectively have a 3v1 situation approaching Chelsea's box. Now from this situation I thought both Antony, but in particular Bruno Fernandes, do exactly what they should. Fernandes recognises that he's not likely to be the player to be best positioned to receive the shooting opportunity, and so makes the right decision to make what is called a facilitating run. Instead of making a run into a goal scoring position, or even to receive the ball, Fernandes bends his run to go on the outside of Antony, knowing that Antony is always going to want to come inside onto his left foot, and that Martial is also a passing option on the left as well, and so by making this overlapping run, Fernandes is creating another option for Antony, and now Fofana has 3 potential outcomes to anticipate. Antony could play the pass square into Martial, cut inside and shoot with his left, or delay the pass and release Fernandes down the side. If Fofana anticipates a shot or pass to Martial, the space down the side of Antony is open for Fernandes, but even if he steps across to cover the Fernandes run, the passing lane to Martial opens up, which is exactly what happens, and unlike in the previous attacks before this, Antony gets the timing and weight of his pass spot on, but this time it's Martial who lets the attack down, with what I can only describe as a rather lazy first touch. And to be honest, United were able to open up Chelsea several times, not just throughout the game but throughout this first half, utilising the direct passing ability of Eriksen and Fernandes, as well as the ability to link play first time of Martial, releasing the forward runners of Sancho, Wan-Bissaka and Antony, but the issue was that United were just so wasteful in the final third, with Sancho and Antony both being guilty of being over hesitant in the final third and not making that killer pass when the run was there, whilst Martial was sloppy at times as well, failing to link play when simple opportunities to do so were there, as well as just not looking as sharp as he has done throughout previous spells this season. But despite the actual end product being rather wasteful, United are still one of the best sides in world football right now when it comes to transitioning the attack quickly, and so you can see why Ten Hag wants to bring in someone like Mason Mount to Old Trafford, as Mount, like Fernandes, not only has the same ability as Eriksen to see those quick long range passes to start counter-attacks after a turnover, but he, like Declan Rice, who has also been linked with United, also excels in the areas where Eriksen is weak. I think Eriksen is just too much of a liability to play alongside Casemiro and Fernandes against opposition sides who have players who can carry the ball powerfully through the centre of the pitch, as Chelsea did in this game, as Eriksen just completely gets bypassed. And we can see an example here when Havertz plays a pass into Madueke at the end of the first half, with the former PSV man still having both Eriksen and Lindelof go offside, but his touchless turn is slick and wrong foots Lindelof before Madueke is easily able to drive past Eriksen, who gets completely accelerated past, and you can imagine how a player like Rice or Caicedo in that midfield instead of Eriksen would have been able to put in a firm tackle in this situation and halt the Chelsea attack. However, Eriksen isn't able to do this, enabling Madueke to progress the ball into the final third, from where he finds Enzo Fernandes, who, as he did all game, picks that exact right time and wait for a threaded pass to find Conor Gallagher's run. Really, one of Luke Shaw or Eriksen has to read the danger earlier and drop back into the back line, narrow alongside Lindelof to cut off this threat. However, throughout the game I thought United were weak defensively down the left side, with all of Lindelof, Shaw and certainly Eriksen being positionally detached from where they should be at certain points, which enabled Chelsea to slice through United as they did here, but staying true to form, Chelsea's attackers Mudryk, Gallagher and Havertz were all incredibly wasteful, scuppering big chances in the first half to get Chelsea level. After Casemiro had opened the scoring with a header from a free kick inside the first 5 or 6 minutes. And United did make Chelsea pay for their lacklustre finishing in stoppage time at the end of the first half. In the build up to the goal, when United had the ball on the left side, you can see that Wan-Bissaka is holding an inverted defensive midfield-like position, while Sancho holds the width on the outside of Lewis Hall. But when the ball gets shifted back in front of the Chelsea midfield line, Wan-Bissaka makes a fantastic facilitating run, driving forward into the space between Chalobah and Hall, which forces Mudryk to drop deep to track the run, opening up the passing lane for Casemiro into Fernandes with space to move into. The progression stagnates from here, but as Fernandes turns to play the pass back to Casemiro, you can see that Sancho has pulled wider, as though he wants to receive the ball to feet. But as the ball goes back to Casemiro, he makes an excellent disguised run, catching Hall off guard and running off his blind side into the space between him and Chalobah, and from here Casemiro's flick pass releasing Sancho is world class, and from this position Sancho's elite level composure inside of the box shines through, as he controls the ball immaculately, laying the chance on a plate for Martial with an inch perfect pass. And throughout the second half, United did have control of the game, and against this pretty basic Chelsea defensive system, they were able to cut them open time after time in the second half, which saw United record an insane XG of 5.31 to Chelsea's 1.9, which surely has to be one of the highest XG games in Premier League history. But overall, I thought Casemiro, Sancho and Fernandes were the standout players for United, with Fernandes in particular being that metronome in the midfield, with nearly every United quality attack going through him, just showing how important he is to Ten Hag's side.